Good morning and welcome to this webinar. Today, we are going to be talking about setting up efficient and secure working environment for remote working with AWS's End User Compute Services. My name is Ajit Rajdeosingh and I'm a solutions architect for AWS. So today we will be looking at what end user computing requirements for organizations are, the business and technical challenges that organizations are facing while enabling their workforce to work remotely. We will then look at an overview of end user compute services that AWS provides, which customers can leverage to deploy their remote working solutions. I will then provide an overview of Amazon WorkSpaces, a fully managed desktop as a service in cloud, followed by an overview of Amazon AppStream 2.0, a fully managed application streaming platform provided by AWS. We will then look at Active Directory integration with these services, and we'll look at how we can provide access to corporate resources for the users using these services, along with various features like network configuration, etc. I'll finally bring this all together with a demo. So organizations' workforce landscape is changing rapidly. 1 in 5 jobs are now held by contractors. 79% of organizations expect an increase in their mergers and acquisitions. And 70% of workforce now works remotely. With this, security is becoming increasingly challenging. You're trying to manage a user base that's constantly changing. The desktops, applications, files, and content each user needs are traveling the globe outside of your network, with 1 in 3 data breaches today coming from lost or stolen devices. Customers tell us these 3 changes, that is, change in data center, changing workforce, and increasing security challenges, are driving them to move their end user computing to cloud. More than half of IT decision makers are choosing to move their end user computing to solutions like desktop as service or VDI, up from 43 and 44% just 2 years ago. So what are our customers telling us? Customers are looking for novel and new solutions to achieve their business imperatives and objectives. What are these objectives? They want to embrace personal devices, popularly termed as bring your own device. Secondly, with expansion of businesses, customers are looking at contractors and vendors for burst work engagements and specific targeted efforts. Additionally, they want to provide access for their mobile workers to corporate resources. All this while maintaining data security and ensuring no unintended access is exposed. Customers want to remain agile in choosing solutions and moving quickly. So what has not been working for customers and what has been stopping them to achieve these objectives? Traditional IT hardware inventory is difficult. It has a typical 3 to 5 year life cycle and requires constant refresh of hardware. Additionally, securing bring your own device endpoints is complicated, and backing up data on BYOD devices is difficult. Customers choosing to deploy on-premises VDI solutions have found that it is expensive and requires heavy upfront investment. On-premises VDI solutions typically require weeks to deploy, and the servers have to be managed and secured. Similarly, they are expensive to scale. Finally, data storage poses challenges of their own, like data stored on multiple devices, limited control on movement, on how users are managing the data, how do users access large files and collaborate with different teams across the organizations. These things make it very difficult to secure data. This is where AWS's end user compute solution come in. Customers are choosing AWS end user compute solutions because they give you the agility to respond to changing needs of your global workforce by being fully managed, pay as you go, reliable, and secure. Instead of spending weeks or months purchasing, building, and securing virtual desktop infrastructure and devices for contractors, remote employees, specialized applications, or mergers and acquisitions, you simply deliver what they need and on demand. We enable this with a suite of products tailored to users' needs. First is Amazon WorkSpaces, a fully managed desktop as a service in cloud that lets users access a full desktop on demand. It is very persistent environment and very similar to what you would expect from a standard Windows or a Linux-based system. Next, Amazon WorkDocs, a file storage system. It is a fully managed file storage service that lets users store and access the files they need on demand and from anywhere. Then we have application streaming via Amazon AppStream 2.0. Amazon AppStream 2.0 allows you to stream desktop applications to users to any device running a web browsers. With all these services, security remains still our top priority, and you will see end-to-end encryption is used in all these products. For end users, there is no processing happening on the client devices with Amazon WorkSpaces and Amazon AppStream 2.0. We will look at these features more in detail in subsequent slides. So now let's look at Amazon WorkSpaces. What are the benefits of managed cloud desktops with Amazon WorkSpaces? Amazon WorkSpaces is a fully pay-as-you-go model, so you are only paying for the number of users you have. It is very simple to manage and deploy with fully featured set of APIs and SDKs. It is secure. The protocol we use is TeraDC PC over IP. Streaming pixels from the desktop are sent down to client, while keyboard and mouse clicks are sent upstream. There is no processing happening on the client devices. All the processing is centralized in the desktop on the cloud. AES 256-bit encryption is used for all the transit data that is passing between the desktop in the cloud and the client. Data at rest can also be encrypted by a simple checkbox configuration item. WorkSpaces provides a very familiar experience. Once the users use the client to log in their desktop environment, it's a standard Windows or Linux experience. This is true not only for the users, but also for the administrators. The same tools that administrators use today can be used to manage the WorkSpaces instance, like System Center for inventory and software distribution, Liquidware for profile management, etc. Amazon WorkSpaces provides cloud-native scale and consistent performance. Every user gets an instance that represents their workspace behind the scene. Therefore, scaling a workspace or a desktop instance for a user requires only the user requirements to be taken into account. Administrators do not need to guess capacity for provisioning number of users on one shared instance. Hence, WorkSpaces instances can be scaled up and down easily without causing any disruption. So the goal really here is to end the PC lifecycle management. 2 to 4 year purchase lifecycle is difficult to manage and is expensive. We want to extend the lifecycle of client devices and support BYOD. For example, clients running full Windows operating system will be spun out in next 3 to 5 years. You can extend the life of these systems by continuing to run soft client for WorkSpaces on them. Customers can also choose to reimage their existing clients to a lightweight operating system like Chromium operating systems. WorkSpaces client supports PCs, MacBooks, tablets, Chromebooks, and Zero clients. WorkSpaces client also supports a self-service feature with which users can resize their instances, change storage, rebuild, or reboot. This self-service feature can be disabled by the administrators. Finally, with WorkSpaces, customers are moving to an operational expense model. So what are the use cases for Workspace? Workspaces can really be used in any use case that requires a full desktop. For example, at Amazon.com, we use workspaces throughout our corporate environment for day-to-day activity, standard office use, etc. Number of customers are using workspaces to provide bash and host environments to their developers. This avoids them to create bash and environments and manage permissions. We will take a look at few customer case studies in the next part of this webinar. Workspaces plays well with your existing tools. It integrates with your Microsoft Active Directory. It can provide multi-factor authentication for your users. It integrates with your existing tools for software and inventory management like SCCM. Workspaces can also integrate with your certificate authority, which can allow you to ensure that only known endpoints are connecting to your Workspaces endpoints. You're getting improved security for your desktop environment with Workspaces. No work is performed on client devices. All processing happens on the instances in cloud, and streaming data between the desktop instance and client devices is fully encrypted in transit. You can encrypt the data at rest also using AWS KMS by using AWS managed keys or customer managed keys. Workspaces is ready to meet your security and compliance requirements. As I earlier mentioned, you can manage access to Workspaces using digital certificates. We are fully PCI DSS Level 1 compliant, SOC 1, SOC 2, ISO 9001 and 27001 certified. We are also HIPAA eligible if your business requires that, and as all AWS services, we are EU GDPR ready. Workspaces now provides two billing options, monthly and hourly. Monthly is always on, and it allows you to simplify your AWS bills. It is the best choice for full-time staff and provides instant access. Hourly takes a bit longer to start, typically up to 1 to 1.5 minutes. Anyone working less than 82 hours is best suited for an hourly instance. Best use cases for hourly instance are students, part-time staff, or training participants. There is a cost optimizer feature that we provide which gives you insights on which workspaces option is best suited for your organization. Okay, now let's take a look at Amazon WorkDocs. Amazon WorkDocs is a file collaboration and content management system. It provides you access to your content from anywhere through mobile app, browser app, or client app, or it can also be mounted as a native mount using file system. It provides simple integration with your Workspaces, Amazon Workspaces, and Amazon AppStream. It provides extensible SDK with which you can build your own workflow and build your own enterprise content management systems. It is fully pay as you go, so you only pay for what you use. Amazon Workspaces and Amazon WorkDocs integrate seamlessly. With Workspaces, you get a 50 GB free tier for all workspace users. You can upgrade that storage to 1 terabyte for just $2 per user per month. Amazon WorkDocs drive can be a default drive for user storage solution. Now let's take a look at Amazon AppStream 2.0. AppStream 2.0 is an application streaming platform. It provides administrators to bring their applications to cloud and stream those applications via web browsers to the end clients. AppStream provides a pay-as-you-go model, and you are only paying for the number of users on the platform. AppStream is secure by default. There is no processing happening on end clients and no application data being stored on the end clients. Streaming pixels from the applications are streamed down or sent down to the end client using NiceDCV protocol, which supports end-to-end encryption. So let's take a look at AppStream's benefit. With AppStreams, you can import existing applications with absolutely no change or rewrite required. You simply bring in the application and start streaming them to your end users. AppStream applications can be integrated with your existing apps, identities, and entitlements. There is no hardware or software to be installed. You simply add the apps and start streaming. And finally, with AppStream, you get one streaming instance per instance, and there is no sharing between users or instances, and hence you get a very consistent user experience. So what are the app use cases for AppStream? Software vendors can use AppStreams to provide trials and demos. Enterprises can use AppStream to see or evaluate products. Also, training providers can use AppStream to provide a consistent training environments to their participants. We will look at more AppStream case studies in the later part of this webinar. AppStream supports multiple instance families for different workloads that you have. So you can choose the right instance family for the right workload characteristics. Instance families that AppStream provides consist of general purpose instances for regular workers, for knowledge worker apps, for compute optimized instances for applications that require high performance processors, memory optimized instances for applications that require or that need to process a large amount of data in memory, and graphic optimized for applications requiring high graphics requirements. So let's take a look at the graphic instance families. For graphics, we provide three options: Design, Desktop, and Pro. For applications, the Design desktop runs on AMD Fire Pro, and it is ideal for applications relying on hardware acceleration through DirectX, OpenCL, and OpenGL. Examples of applications include Adobe Premiere Pro, Autodesk, Siemens, and X. If you need CUDA support, Graphics Desktop family offers that through NVIDIA K50 GPU. And finally, Graphics Pro family uses Tesla M60 and can support up to 64 vCPUs and 488 gigabytes of memory. It is ideal for applications that require massive amount of parallel processing for 3D rendering, video encoding, etc. Now, let us take a look at some deployment considerations for Amazon WorkSpaces and Amazon AppStream. For this, we'll consider a scenario and make a few assumptions. Let us consider that we are building a solution for an existing AWS customer who has an hybrid architecture and a mix of applications running in AWS or in the cloud and on premises. We will assume that the existing Active Directory is used as an identity provider. We'll also assume that there is an AWS Direct Connect already in place, and we will build the solution for 4,000 plus users. We'll assume that 30% of the workforce is contingent, that is coming from mergers and acquisitions, freelancers, contract workers, etc., while 10% of the workforce requires high performance or GPU workloads. So what is the recommended approach to start building the solution? So start with the user segmentation, thinking about how the segmentation will look like in your organization. Identify the initial use cases that you are trying to solve for each of the user segment. Evaluate the performance characteristics of your environment, such as, do your engineering workers request more powerful systems for their applications? Are the developers continually requesting for more powerful systems or systems that are beyond standard configuration? Are there more exception requests coming from a particular user group or user segment? Do your remote users complain about remote working experience like performance with VPN issues, security and posture validation, etc.? Based on these data points, choose a solution which can be a combination of Amazon WorkSpaces and Amazon AppStream, and create acceptance tests for the validation of the solution. Deploy the solution once the acceptance tests pass, and with AWS, you can easily iterate over the solution depending on the changing requirements. So, for architecture building, one of the first elements that you should be considering is the account structure. Separation of accounts is a recommended model for any workload that you deploy in AWS. We recommend an account structure with a pair account, which is used for central administration of billing, logging, and security. Customers deploy separate accounts for environments like dev and prod, which gives them isolation of those environments and provides them distinct administration boundaries. Some customers also have separate accounts based on business units. It's completely up to your organization to define the account structure. However, we recommend having a separate account for the end user compute services in your account structure. AWS Control Tower or landing zone deployments can help you in creating a strong foundational account structure. Now let's take a look at some of the network requirements of these services based on which we will design our network for the solution. Amazon WorkSpaces requires 2 subnets in 2 different availability zones, while it is recommended that you deploy Amazon AppStream with 2 different subnets in 2 different AZs as well. You should size your subnets not only to accommodate your current requirements, but also considering the scalability requirements for your organization. We have assumed a user space of 4,000 users. However, considering the requirements, I will allocate a /19 to my end user compute VPC so that I can create 4/21s and allocate those to my WorkSpaces and AppStream instances. Let's take a look at the ENIs that are associated with the instances, both with AppStream and with WorkSpaces. The instances in each of these services have at least 2 ENIs. The ETH0 ENI is for your control traffic, while ETH1 is the interface that connects to your VPC. The routing rules, security groups, everything is applicable on ETH1 and you have full control on this interface. You provide access to your instances to file servers, backend databases, licensing servers, and so on, either in your VPC, in a peered VPC, or even on-premises via ETH1 interface. The control traffic, that is the PC over IP traffic for WorkSpaces, and the streaming pixel traffic over DCV goes over the ETH0 interface. Let's take a look at the directory integration. Both the services support directory integration with your existing Active Directory. WorkSpaces is always join a domain join instance. So you have to have a directory either using Amazon managed Active Directory, or you can integrate your existing Active Directory with an AD connector. AppStream instances can be standalone or they can be domain joined as well. You can have the fleet join a domain using SAML federation. Now, let us bring it all together with a demo. I have created a WorkSpaces instance along with an AppStream stack, which is integrated with Active Directory for authentication, and I will be using WorkDocs to provide a single storage solution across all the platforms. So, you can see in my AWS environment, I have created a WorkSpaces instance for a user called AppAccess. The AppAccess user also needs access to a 3D animation software called Blender. However, the workspace instance does not have a graphics card, and I will provide application or Blender application access to this user via AppStream. For that purpose, I have also created an AppStream application stack for the user, which will be used to stream the application. To see all of this in action, let us jump into the workspace instance. So I'm logging into the workspace instance with my Active Directory credentials. And as you can see, the workspace instance is a standard Windows 10 operating system. I can mount my WorkDocs directory or my WorkDocs storage directly into my workspace instance by using my other file share. So I will use the WorkDocs drive client to do that. So now I've used the WorkDocs drive to mount my WorkDocs drive directly into my file system. And I directly have access to WorkDocs as a storage from my WorkDocs or WorkSpaces instance. Now I want to do something with or some 3D rendering with Blender. I cannot do this on my WorkSpaces instance because I do not have a graphics processor. As you can see, I am not able to open Blender. But to be able to do this, now I will go
to AppStream and stream that application from my AppStream stack. I'm using single sign-on to sign in into my AppStream stack, and AWS SSO is my SAML provider to log into AppStream. So now you can see I have Blender, Notepad, and WorkDocs drive access directly into my AppStream. I will click on WorkDocs drive to mount WorkDocs drive directly in my AppStream so that I can have access to all the files on my WorkDocs. So now you can see I've logged into the AppStream instance, and now I will use the WorkDocs application to mount my WorkDocs drive into my AppStream instance. Once I have done this, I can go and open my Blender instance and start working on my design here. I'm not a 3D engineer or a 3D animation engineer, but I'll quickly show you how I can render this on the WorkStream app instance and save this image on WorkDocs for consumption from from anywhere outside of the AppStream. So I've rendered this image, and I can go ahead and save this file back on my WorkDocs storage. As an image, and I can go ahead and close my AppStream instance. So now the image that I had rendered and stored in my WorkDoc I should be able to access that from anywhere. I will be able to access it from my WorkDocs instance as well as I can access it from outside of WorkDocs, even from my client machine. So I will go back on my client machine and show how I can do that. So this is my client machine, and you can see I have the untitled or the image that I had stored from my render using Blender. And the same is applicable also on my WorkDocs instance, which I can access from my mounted file share. So that is the end of demo. And let us move back to the next part of the presentation. So you can try Amazon WorkSpaces, Amazon AppStream, and Amazon WorkDocs today with free tier that is available on AWS. With Amazon WorkSpaces, you can run 2 standard bundle of workspaces for 40 hours a month for up to 2 months. Windows 7 and Windows 10 experience are included in the free tier, along with Amazon Linux 2 as well. You get a 50 GB storage with WorkDocs in the free tier. Amazon AppStream can directly be tried using sample applications from your AWS console. Amazon WorkDocs also has a free tier with 30-day free trial of 1 TB of storage per user for up to 50 users. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your attendance, and we will move to the next part of the webinar, where Oblivion Cloud Control, our partner, will speak about customer case studies. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Natris. I'm a consultant at Oblivion Cloud Control, and I have the honor of taking you through the next part of this webinar. Let's have a look at our agenda of what we're going to cover today in the next half hour or so. We have a short introduction about our company and what we're going to talk about. We'll talk a little bit about the drivers for our customers to use end user computing services like WorkSpaces and AppStream. And then I have 5 cases I want to briefly present to you why our customers needed a workspace solution or a remote desktop solution, and how we've developed that and what the benefits are that they got out of it. So Let's move on with a short introduction. I work, as said, for Oblivion Cloud Control. We are an AWS premier consulting partner. We are a group of AWS trained and certified engineers, architects and consultants. We're purely focused on AWS, and we've done a lot of projects already in our past years in migrations, setting up landing zones, building and maintaining landing zones. Recently, we get more and more questions around cloud cost management, but also handling for customers well-architected reviews. Basically, we're working across the whole scope of AWS services and doing consultancy and actual implementations on that. We're doing that with a couple of very large enterprises, some of our large banks in the Netherlands and insurance companies, but also for a couple of retail customers, e-retailers. We also support some software houses who are running their SaaS services on top of AWS, and even a couple of startups. We've been working with AWS actually since 2006 when AWS really started, and we've done workspace implementation since 2012, so we have quite a bit of experience in this field. Why are customers coming to us and discuss cloud end user computing, whether it's workspaces or AppStreaming or any of the other cloud-based solutions? Well, it's typically because they want to increase their work from home capabilities, all the more relevant in today's world. But there's also questions around lower TCO than more traditional solutions, business continuity, pretty much also linked to work from home or work from a other location than the regular office. Follow me anywhere, providing capabilities for bring your own device, bring your own laptop or desktop, improving security and compliance. You can imagine if people start using laptops or other devices that you haven't issued themselves, that you can't secure, where you don't know what they're using it for when they're not working for your company. You implement or introduce all kinds of security and potential compliance issues. So those are a number of the drivers, and depending on those drivers, you either go for a solution where people have a real virtual desktop where they can still get access to operating system and do a lot of things themselves, implement their own applications, or they really have access to the application, the business applications that you require them to use, but they are not able to do anything else with it. And depending on your exact requirements, one or the other solution might be the best for you. Now let's have a look at Amazon WorkSpaces and two examples that I wanted to share with you. One of them is really for data protection, and in this case not data protection as we often think about in terms of privacy related information, but this is really a company wanted to protect their intellectual property. The other is a more recent case where due to an emergency, and you can think about what that could be, a company needed a significantly more capacity for people working from home or working from remote locations. So the first one, data protection for remote, and actually it were remote CAD/CAM 3D workers. We're talking about a company, a Dutch company that builds manufacturing lines for the food processing industry. They're pretty much at the high end of the industry, and there's a lot of competition and there's a lot of competitors who would be very interested in getting access to their intellectual property and how they build and design those new systems. Unfortunately, in their home market, there's very few skilled personnel, 3D designers, CAD/CAM designers available. So they started to look where they could get these, and India was the obvious choice. However, they were afraid that by doing so, they would risk the exposure of their intellectual property. Now, a number of options would be to either build a secure facility in India, where you provide people with workstations that have been locked off, so you can't, all the USB ports are locked, etc. You have a security guard there. Now that's an option, and in the past a lot of companies used to do that, but it's an expensive option and it's not very flexible at all. So our approach, our solution was provide them AWS workspaces, pretty much high-end workspaces. As you can see, these are pretty big beasts. They would be very expensive to deploy as real workstations in India. We set up a VPC with local file replication and a license server integrated into the company network. So moving on to the next slide, you can see an architecture diagram. Obviously, no AWS seminar would be complete without an architecture diagram. So here's one. You'll get a few more in this webinar. And you can see what we've done. We've set up a local license server, storage replication, a local database. So that gives the workers in India the access via WorkSpaces to work on the CAD files. The benefit is you can test it in a local region close to you. You may maybe even set it up for your own staff, and then you replicate it into an AWS region closer to where the flexible staff is located. In this case, we chose a region as India itself doesn't support it yet. It gives you exactly what you want. The IP is protected because they can't make a local copy of those files. They can only work with them. They can store on the web-based storage, on the cloud-based storage, and they can't take it with them. Yeah, they could take a picture of the screen, but that's about it. So you have a flexible solution, cloud-based. You can scale up, scale down. You can deploy it into another region. You can remove it from that region, and therefore it meets the needs. Highly secure, set up, flexible. Allowing to unlock potential in workforce in other countries as and when you need it. Let's have a look at our second WorkSpaces case. This is a company that did have a remote workspace solution hosted in their own data center, but that was scaled not for having basically almost all their staff working from home or remote locations. So we jumped in, we did an emergency project to set this up, integrate it into their network. And well, let's have a look at the next slide where you can see how that was done. It's a pretty basic setup. Within 2 days, their staff were able to get access to their files, get access to the intranet so they could start working. Some people working on a workstation provided by the company, but there were nearly not enough. So this also allows people to work from their home PC, tablets and other devices, so that expands the potential for working from home or working from other locations a lot. Again, no capex, no long-term commitment. You can decide whether you want a workspace for a month or keep it at on demand, and you have flexibility in deciding that. It was actually live within 2 days, and then in the days after we started doing iterative improvements, adding some functionality, doing some performance tuning. But this allows a company to quickly scale up to a much higher percentage of your staff working outside of your normal office environments and not needing to buy an incredible amount of hardware, both within your data center to have the remote workstation servers, as well as the actual remote workstations or laptops that people use in their home to access now the intranet and their office applications. So those were the 2 examples in AWS WorkSpaces that I wanted to share. Next, we have another 3 examples around Amazon AppStream. One is quite interesting with Zuidzorg, which is a care provider, and in the healthcare industry, cloud is still not that advanced, and this company moved there already a few years ago, so they're very, very advanced, especially in their sector. And we have two other examples, one around providing secure training environment to students and allow them to do exams from home. And the third is around software licensing optimization, but also applications that really didn't work well in a more, I would almost say, traditional cloud setup where you have the back end running on the cloud and the front end running on a workstation at the user side. Let's move on to Zuidzorg, the web-based working experience. Zuidzorg is really a company that wanted to migrate completely out of a managed, outsourced data center completely into the AWS cloud, and that's what they did. They wanted to have 100% web-based working so they could have their employees and others working on thin clients, bring your own devices. That was very important to them. And we decided with them to use AppStream 2.0. And if you look over here on the architecture, any user comes in via Okta. Okta syncs with the AWS directory service, sees what applications do you have access to, and these are then provided through AppStream. And that was actually quite easy to set up. If you look at the work experience, this provided for very easy application access. The performance is very good, so there's no issues from that side. You can scale the fleet on demand because they obviously have very high peaks at certain times of the week, and then at other times of the week there's almost nothing. Image building turned out to be very easy and a very good integration options to home directories enforcing AD policies. Let's look at the fourth case, providing a secure training environment. Here we have a software house who are active in the medical sector, and they provide training on their Windows-based software to students all over the globe. And what they wanted to do is you can attend the training class, but then they give you access to the software so you can continue trying things out and studying for up to 30 to 90 days. At the same time, this being a software house, you want to have control where your software ends up. Plus, you also don't want to be forced to supporting people with installing it on their own workstation, because before you know it, you start running a large help desk with a few very smart people who can talk people through various options, or you need to set very high and strict demands on what their local workstation has to meet in terms of operating system and tools and etc. With AppStream, you prevent all that, and this allows students and examinees to finish their courses at home much safer, much easier to run, and at the same time for external licensing, it's easier to measure and make sure you're not under provisioned, you're not out of license at all. Again, on the next slide, we have a very simple architecture setup, and this works. You control access to the training environment at all time. You can stop it, you can limit it if there's any issues, and while it works, students can easily continue to train and even do exams from the home using AppStream. Case number 5 is around, it's both around efficient license consumption, but also providing a good worker experience. They had already migrated a lot of workloads to the AWS cloud, but there were a few legacy applications that didn't perform very well when the backend, the server, was in the AWS cloud and the client was still on somebody's laptop or desktop. The latency of 50 milliseconds was too much for that. However, if those legacy applications would continue to run on-prem, they couldn't decommission their data center, so they would carry a very high fixed cost. And one of the additional challenges there was that one of those applications was licensed on a concurrent usage model, so you want to control who has access to it, who is running it, at what time. And again, with Amazon AppStream, we were able to meet the needs of this customer by setting it up in such a way that the server, which is in the Amazon cloud, is very close to the workstation because that's also in the Amazon cloud. So both are very close together, very, very short latency, providing for a very good user performance. The fact that you control the fleet of AppStream means that you can manage your concurrent usage very strictly. You can make sure that you're not end up being under provisioned or have sudden spikes where you don't expect that and need to buy more licenses. It also allowed to migrate these applications out of their data centers onto AWS, so they were able to close down their data center and reap the benefits of the entire cloud migration strategy, and at the same time, secured access to these applications is assured via the AppStream solution. So, as you can see from these 5 examples, AppStream and WorkSpaces, although they both cover the need for people to work remotely from their normal work location, they serve different purposes. The good thing is you can easily combine them. There's no either or. You can have some of your employees using WorkSpaces, others using AppStream. You can have some people using WorkSpaces but having access to certain applications via AppStream. You can easily combine that just as and when you need it. Obviously, it's a cloud model. It's flexible. You can scale up, you can scale down. It's OpEx driven, although you can reap some savings by, for example, reserving WorkSpaces for a month. It's an easy setup. These projects typically take days. Also for AppStream, packaging an image turns out to be very easy to do. And these are not projects that take months to complete. Within a few days, you can be up and running and at least provide your staff or co-workers with easy access to productivity applications, to your intranet, so they can start working from, well, basically any place in the world where you have a decent internet connection. There's good integration with the existing workspace technologies that we all have, for example, Active Directory. And it also gives you access to Linux workstations or very high-end GPU workstations, again, on an as if and when needed basis. You don't need to buy high-end workstations if you only occasionally need them. Then you use them just as an on-demand option out of the AWS cloud. So that brings me to the end of this part of the webinar. And let's open this up for maybe a few questions and answers. Thank you very much.